Hello there. Welcome back to my channel. This is Balsamic Moon Tarot, and I have been offline for maybe a month now. It's been some time since my last video, but I'm happy to be back, and I'm just trying to get into the groove of this again with doing readings for this channel. So if you're a new viewer, welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. So today I'm just doing a collective reading, or a general reading. There won't be a pick a card element to this, so just check in with your own intuition. If the first few cards are resonating with you, then this is your reading, but if not, feel free to listen along and just receive the messages that make sense for you, that help you, and that assist you with whatever's going on. So the first card to come out today is this oracle card number 41. It is a seahorse, okay? Let me just make sure that you can see that. I'll put it over here. We have the message, float like you mean it. And it is a seahorse, and we see coral here, lovely, blue ocean water setting. So this is the second card. This is the second time this card came out today. So it's definitely a message for today and for the collective. And the first thing I'm getting from this card is, first of all, take a few deep breaths. If you feel like you've been a bit lost at sea, if you feel like you've been a bit unmoored, anxious or concerned because of a lot of uncertainties, especially if you feel like you have been high-strung lately, like if your nervousness has been culminating to a point that is unmanageable or overwhelming, there's advice here, which is to take a step back and breathe. Really give yourself that time to release that nervous energy and find that center again. And it should feel as though you're relaxing into the current, okay? So if you know how to swim and you know how to float, you know what this feels like. If you don't know how to swim, it may be hard to describe this, but when we float in water, right, the more we let go of that tension, the more we relax and release, the more buoyant we are, the more we feel supported by the water, okay? So it can be counterintuitive, but right now, in order to move forward and survive and thrive, it's very important that we tell ourselves, teach ourselves how to release tension, how to release stress, how to release worry. It can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths. Alrighty, so that's our first message. Let's see where this goes. We're going to go with the flow. The reading is all about flow today. We have the Seven of Cups here. This is the Aquarian Tarot. This is one of my favorite decks. I absolutely love this tarot deck from David Palladini. Beautiful imagery, beautiful colors. And I feel the need to tell you that because the Seven of Cups is, one thing about the Seven of Cups is it is about creativity and imagination and fantasy and visions, okay? And so appreciation, gratitude, receptivity, that's where that begins, okay? Being able to identify What brings you delight? What brings you joy? What attracts you? What do you find appealing? What do you find pleasing? Sometimes we're overwhelmed with choices, but it's not because there are so many choices. It's because we're so confused. It's because we've lost touch with that inner drive, that inner force that guides us, you know, we've lost touch with ourselves, right? It's like we've lost touch with our truest motivations. And that's what I'm getting with the Seven of Cups here, is that there's encouragement as well as cautionary advice here. There's the encouragement to really allow yourself to imagine, okay, to indulge in visioning and fantasy just enough to recognize what your desire is. If you're if you're unsure, what is it you want? You've got to give yourself, again, to release, right? You've got to give yourself that relaxing time where you're not forcing those answers. You're letting those answers come to you through your imagination and through your intuition. If you're having trouble making a choice, making a decision, imagine the different scenarios. Imagine the best scenario. And really allow yourself that freedom to imagine. You know, fill up this vision with as much detail as you'd like. Fill it up with as much story as you'd like. You know, create that story. So that is the encouragement here. But there's also the cautionary advice, which is, on the other end of this, could you be someone who has spent a little bit too much time imagining and not doing, right? Have you been spending too much time in an escapist fantasy, a fantasy that you know will never come true? And that's what's important here, is that whatever you use your imagination for, let it be for action. Let it be for motivation. Let it be for resolve, you know, making a decision, being inspired to make a decision and stick to that decision. Let it have an impact on your life in a good way, okay? I hope I'm making sense with that. But that's a very strong message I'm getting from that Seven of Cups. Let's go ahead and pull a couple more cards from this deck. So I guess, you know, there's like a message here of going with the flow and identifying tension, identifying stuckness and releasing it and trusting and going with the flow here, along with having enough motivation and self-direction to orient yourself towards what you want, right? Like don't be completely free-floating where you have no direction. Like, have a direction and then try to go with the flow in that direction. Like, you'll have twists and turns, but always keep that goal in mind, so that everything you're doing as you twist and turn through life, everything you're doing, you are still oriented towards that goal, that dream, that vision, okay? Oh, wow, we have the Magician. Beautiful. See, there you go. So the Magician is a card of, you know, the power of words, the power of invocation, the power of intention, right? We can't manifest something we desire if we don't give it that power of words, of thought. Can we articulate what we desire? Can we describe it? And can we say, this will be, this is happening? Can you know, for example, it's not like what you say is going to automatically happen. I'm not trying to, you know, teach you I'm not trying to say something that's clearly make believe, right? What I'm trying to say is that the more you can direct your intention, the more you can infuse your intention with energy, then the likelier it will support you in return. It's like the energy that you give to that desire, by making it specific, by articulating articulate your vision, your goal in a way that gives you, that in a way that feels true, in a way that feels exciting and passionate. If you can put that into words, where your excitement for it and your passion for it and the happiness that you feel is tied up to this, if you can infuse it with that, then it's like a I don't know, reverberation. It's like it will give that energy back to you as well. It will resound. Okay, it will be like that's where it's like it will impact your life in ways that you can't even predict, because it will impact the unconscious as well as the conscious, and it will impact how you carry yourself, how you approach things in ways you can't measure. So that's what the magician is telling me here, is that the feeling you have about what you're trying to do, the excitement you have about it, the focus and the resolve you have towards it, that matters here. Do you trust your own words? Do you trust that you will do what you say? Okay, see, there's another aspect to it. Is your word bond? Can you trust yourself? And if not, why? Have you betrayed yourself to the point that you cannot trust yourself to do the thing you say you will do? So the power of words and the energy we give to words, because if you say things that you don't really mean, and if you say things and do the opposite, then you are depriving yourself of that power of your word. Okay, so that's showing up here. Wow, this is intense. I'm sorry. This is I had no idea going in that this would be the message for today, but it is a very strong message here. Okay, let's go ahead and take a card from this deck. The Untamed Elemental, beautiful oracle deck here. Lion, wow. I'll put it here next to the seahorse. Interesting, because these creatures are just so different, right? We've got a creature of the ocean, of the water, of the reef, a tiny creature. And something that, it's common knowledge with seahorses, but maybe you don't know. Seahorses, right, they are ambisexual, is that the word? Like when they procreate, they change their gender to procreate. But there's a quality of the seahorse where it's like adaptation, right? Adapting yourself to what needs to be done, adapting yourself to that survival, and also being, accepting of who you are as an individual. So it's an interesting relationship there, because when you know who you are and you know what you're about, and you're secure in that, and you're centered in that, then it's much easier to identify not just your boundaries, but what you're willing to adapt to, right? It's like, this is what I'm willing to compromise, but this is what I absolutely won't. Like, when you know that about yourself, you can find it much easier to adapt and be flexible and improvise, okay? With the lion here, you know, what's interesting about the lion, it's not just courage and being, you know, pure-hearted, being, when I think of the sign of Leo, right? Like, it's not just about that courage, it's also about the heart. It's about, like, the brave heart. It's about being, you know, fiercely protective, fiercely committed here. And with the lion, it's like, you don't have to make compromises if you are empowered. You don't have to make compromises that betray your truest self. So the lion is again, it's about that courage to be who you are, the courage to be yourself, but not to be mistaken, you know, that sorry, let me find that. I just had that thought, but I have to figure out how to say it. That's what it is. The lion doesn't have to prove who they are, right? So again, back to that security of knowing who you are and what you want. When you do feel strong in that, you don't have to prove who you are. You don't have to defend yourself. You can just be who you are. And see, that's like a lion. A lion can just be who they are because they're not cowering in fear of other creatures, right? They are the top of the food chain. Their ferocity and their size and their hunting skills make them, you know, an apex predator, right? So when you feel strong about who you are, when you are centered in that, and you're no longer seeking, you know, others to validate that, when you don't make the outside world the arbiter, the judge of who you are, you choose for yourself who you are, you know for yourself who you are, when you accept who you are, right? So it's also like accepting your true nature. A lion is a lion, a seahorse is a seahorse, right? It's accepting our true nature and embracing that and understanding that our true nature can be our strength, not our weakness. Our true selves they are our strength, not our weakness. How do you tap into that, right? How do you tap into that radical acceptance of who you are, where you can embrace it and go after what you want with that courage? Just something to think about. Again, the message here is float like you mean it, right? Meaning, sincerity. You can't fight for something if you don't believe in it, so you can't fight for yourself if you don't believe in yourself, right? What do you truly mean? Do you mean the words you say? Do you say you want to go and do something and actually believe that you're going to go do that? Okay. Openness. Lovely. We have a full moon here. And we just had a full moon a couple days ago. It's interesting because what this makes me think about is that radical acceptance again, back to the openness. It's like, it may not be advertising everywhere and to anyone who you are. It's not so much that type of openness. I think it's really in relation to yourself and your own thoughts. Because sometimes when we feel shame, it's like we're afraid to think something. You know, there's thoughts that we shy away from. You know, again, the Seven of Cups, right? Go into your imaginary, go into your imagination and open yourself up to possibilities here. Are you open to possibilities, or are you afraid of exploring those possibilities? Does it frighten you because, you know, you are afraid of who you truly are? Are you afraid of what it may show you about yourself? Is that what it is? So that's the message for today. Definitely a strong message about, you know, personal and self-development, and giving ourselves that chance to examine where we are right now. How have things been going? You know, give yourself that evaluation and give your life that evaluation, because it's not, you know, it's not like we are responsible for everything that goes wrong in our lives, but it's always good to check yourself in case there are things that you've been blaming on others that you can take certain responsibility for. Have you, or making excuses, right? Have you been making excuses for yourself because, you know, you say you don't have enough time to do something, but then every time you when you do have free time, you spend it doing something completely unproductive or you know, something that is not at all what you said you would do, right? So this is just a check-in. Like, check in with yourself. When we don't have to struggle in, you know, when we don't have to, how do I say this? When we don't have to spend that energy rationalizing and justifying things that we know we don't really want to do, we don't mean to do, right? When we can just put that energy into directing and working towards your goal, your dream. Four of Cups here. Interesting, because, you know, the Four of Cups can talk about boredom, it can talk about cynicism, you know, even just no longer being excited by something. It's gotten old, it's gotten too predictable and routine. It can mean that, right? It can mean where you just take something for granted because it's just too normalized for you. You don't have that rush of excitement or pleasure in something. It's possible it's become too routine, or you take it for granted for some reason, okay? Complacency. It can mean complacency. But there's also another side to Four of Cups, which I think doesn't get enough attention, which is that sometimes we do have enough and we don't need to entertain these other offerings. So let's look at that Seven of Cups again. Sometimes too many choices confuses the issue of what it is we truly want. And so blocking out those other options, blocking out those distractions, at least gives you a chance to examine what is here, what is in front of you, what is your purview, right? What is your mission? What is your objective? What's your priority? Sometimes it's easier to know your priorities when you can just block out certain things that you know are just non-starters. You know what I mean? So, for example, let's say you're researching like travel, like vacation ideas. Let's say you're researching vacation ideas. On the one hand, you want to be like really receptive to the options out there, you know, because you want to have the best possible vacation. So you know, this is saying like, imagine the best possible vacation. Imagine what would make you excited. And then when you know what you're looking for and you start looking for it, give yourself a boundary. Don't consider other options that, you know, fit like half the bill but don't fit the rest, right? You start focusing on what you want, and you start saying no. You start rejecting other offers. They just don't pass the test. They just don't pass that critical standard you need to use. So it's about having standards too. It's about being a bit more critical about what you invite and accept in your life. This can especially be in regards to relationships, social commitments, social ties, things that really involve your emotional investment. You know, sometimes it is a good idea to no longer invest emotionally in something that you just know it doesn't align with your values. Okay, and now we have the Two of Pentacles. So there is, you know, to me this goes back to the seahorse. It goes back to having that flexibility and that adaptability. And also making peace with the fact that there are going to be certain things that are just in flux, that are just not going to stabilize anytime yet. So I do think we are being asked to, you know, be brave here. There's the line. Be brave to the extent that the answers may not be easy, okay? The solutions may not be easy. So be brave in attempting to go into the world and go after what you want, knowing that it's not going to be easy. Knowing that it may not be a straightforward path. And knowing that you may need to make compromises, as long as those compromises are not compromising who you are at the core. It's still a good idea to at least have enough flexibility to entertain the options that make sense, okay? So yeah, it also goes with the openness here. It's like being receptive and being open, but within reason and with a very strong inner core or compass, okay? So it's also about getting that compass, that inner compass, getting it calibrated. Have you been compromising so much lately that you don't even know what your inner compass is telling you? Okay, so now's a good time to get that in order. Calibrate it, get it in check. If it means taking some time blocking out people or situations, taking some solitude to yourself, saying no to some party invitations, saying no to some people who are not good influences on you, so be it. Now's the time to do that. So that's the message for today. Thank you so much for being here, and stay tuned for the next video. Take care.